Well, it's the start of another day, and just look where we ended up camping last night. We're right on the banks here of this lake, Lago di Bolsena, I believe it's called. And the sun has just come up. Well, not just, about an hour ago now, but I did catch the sunrise this morning, which was just fantastic. Yeah, we camped right on the lake, on the banks of the lake. So I left, one of my tent fly openings open. So when the sun started coming up, I woke up and I was able to catch the sun coming up over the lake, and there was a single lone fisherman fishing with the moon and the sun rising. It was just fantastic. So I got some nice photos of that, which I will share later. And yesterday was another really tough day, but actually one of my favorite days. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll start in this at the start. So just after I recorded that video yesterday morning, which cut off because I ran out of space on my phone, unfortunately. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but yeah, we packed up, and we had to patch up Louisa's cuts and stuff, so, and we had to pay and all these other things, so we didn't really end up leaving until like nearly 11 o'clock, which was much later than I had hoped, because at this point the sun was pretty high in the sky and it was already really hot, and I knew we had a lot of climbing and gravel to do in the day, so I knew it was going to be hard again, and I was kind of struggling from the day before where I almost ran out of water and had a bit of a migraine. I didn't want that to happen again, so I was a little bit wary going into the day, starting so late again. But yeah, we left the campsite, and there was good vibes because we were talking to the owners and they were really friendly and happy for us to stay, and there was a couple of other bikepackers going to Greece as well, but they're going over the top of Italy. Two friends, one's from Ireland, one was from New Zealand, so I had a bit of a chat with them, but not for too long because we had to go. And then pretty much straight away there was, as we left the camp, it was up and down more hills and it was all gravel, so it was already pretty tough starting off in the sun. And then I got to the top of the hill, like to the next village where the gravel kind of ended, and I was a bit lost of where to go, and I thought Louisa might get lost as well, so I stopped and waited for her. And I was also a little bit concerned because she said she had hit her head and she had a bit of a lump on her head, and I was worried she might have a bit of concussion, so I didn't want to leave her too far without someone watching her. So I waited for her at the top of the hill, and then she came up a bit later and she was just saying, "Oh, I'm just wrecked, and I don't think I'm going to be able to go very far today, and you shouldn't wait for me," and all this stuff. And I wasn't really sure what to do because I didn't want to leave her, but she was also telling me not to wait for her. But anyway, we waited for a little bit at the hill, and she kind of recovered a bit, and then we did end up continuing together. And at this point we started coming across more and more bikepackers, sorry. And it wasn't until later in the day when I chatted with when I chatted with one of them who was on the top of a hill that I realized that they were doing this really big, well, not that big, but it was 600 kilometer kind of event around Italy, mostly Tuscany, like a gravel racing event, which sounded pretty cool. So there was heaps of bikepackers around doing that, and so I lost my train of thought. But yeah, anyway, there was lots of like really nice but also pretty tricky gravel sections, and then some really steep parts which I really enjoyed going down, but Louisa, I think, really struggled on her tyres and with her injuries, so I ended up leaving her behind. And at this point I feel a bit guilty, but I did just kind of take off, and I just kind of relished going at my own pace and not having to worry about anyone else. I guess I kind of missed that after a few days of riding with someone else. It is kind of tough, or it can be kind of tough, when you're riding with someone else and you're not feeling, you're not on the same wavelength, and someone's feeling good and someone's feeling not so good, and you have to compromise a little bit. And so I guiltily just pretended I was by myself again, and I took off. And from this point there was a heap of, like, after the really steep gravel section, there was a few, maybe like almost 20 kilometers of just like nice flat roads, highway, and then slowly started going up to another hill. And that 20 k's of highway was just, I just was loving it. I was going super fast, I was listening to music, and just felt really awesome to be back on flat road again and not gravel, and just be able to go as fast as I want was really nice. And then soon we came up to the really big hill of the day, which was maybe 600 meters or so, all up. Yesterday was about 1200 meters of climbing, so it was quite a bit, and I think it was probably the biggest day of climbing for the rest of the trip to Rome, hopefully. And luckily this hill was all sealed though, so there was no gravel on the way up, which was really a relief, because it was, compared to what we've been doing the last couple of days on all the gravel, it was really quite straightforward to climb this hill. It was a big hill, and it took us a while, but there wasn't any real tricks to it. And I did wait for Louisa at the bottom before starting to climb, and then maybe about a quarter of the way up, I turned around and tried to fill up my water at a tap, but unfortunately the tap wasn't working. So I was just kind of having a bit of a breather when Louisa actually caught up, and she came up behind me, and then she pulled over as well. And it was really nice to see her. I wasn't sure that she was going to catch up, but she obviously pushed pretty hard and managed to do it. And then we ended up having lunch and a coffee at a little restaurant, which at first I was a little bit irritated about, I guess, because I was feeling good and I didn't really want to stop. But actually, once I sat down and had a cold drink, I was really glad that we did stop, because it was really nice to relax and get out of the sun for a bit. And then then we continued back up the hill, and at this point, like, again, I was feeling really good. I'm not sure what was in that sandwich or in the coffee, maybe, but I just felt like I had heaps of energy, and so I just powered up the rest of that hill. And it was quite a big hill, but just didn't feel like I needed to stop, didn't feel like I needed rest or energy or anything. I just felt really good. And so I got to the top of that hill and admired the view for a while. I did even a loop of the town at the top while I was waiting for Louisa, and then tried to get some food at the shop, but it was a Sunday, so of course it was closed. But I didn't see Louisa, and I'd been waiting there for probably 20 minutes. So at this point I decided, all right, I'm gonna head back down. So went back down the other side, and the other side was much trickier, because it was all gravel and it was very steep. And for me, like, I loved it because I have the right tires for it. So I just put on some music and just got into the flow state, which was amazing, because I haven't been in that for a while, and just shot down this mountain, picking the path on the gravel to make sure I didn't fall. And I was wearing my helmet, and I finally got to the bottom after maybe, I don't know, half an hour of descent, which was awesome. And was back on the highway and turned around and kept riding on the highway. And then I found, I rode past a little bike like fix station. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I turned around and went back, and there was like all these tools and a hose and detergent and stuff for cleaning your bike. And I read some signs, and it was for the that bike packing tour around Tuscany that I mentioned at the start. So there was no one else there, and so I took the liberty to spend about 40 minutes washing and cleaning my bike, because it was the first time I'd actually done that, I think, since the start of this trip. So nearly 5,000 kilometers, and first time I've cleaned my bike. And we've been doing a lot of gravel, as I said, so the bike was pretty filthy. So I spent a while cleaning that, and I still didn't see Louisa, so I thought maybe she had ridden past while I was cleaning. So I took off again and tried to speed up to maybe try and catch her. And I sent her a text saying, I think you probably passed me, and she said, yeah, I think I did too. And I was riding for a while, and then soon enough the road turned back into gravel, and I was like, well, why did I even bother cleaning my bike? That was a waste of time, wasn't it? And I was riding on the gravel, and then I tried to brake pretty hard, and my brakes just didn't work, and I was like, oh shit, what the hell have I done here? So I stopped immediately, as soon as I could, when the brakes kind of engaged, and looked at the brakes, and then I realized what had happened. I'd done something really stupid. I had actually, when I was cleaning my bike, there was some WD-40, and I had really stupidly actually sprayed some of that on my brake pads. Probably one of the dumbest things I've ever done. And so my brakes kind of stopped working because they were covered in lubricant. And so I was doing some reading on the internet. How can I fix this? People were saying you're going to have to throw out your brake pads. It's ruined, all this stuff. And I was pretty worried about it. But basically I started trying to rebed the brakes in. So by braking really hard going down mountains, I was able to create friction again between the brakes and the pads and the rotor, and get them to start working again a bit better. So I think they're okay now. We'll see. I might get some new brake pads in Rome just in case. Anyway, my phone's running out of storage again, so I got to wrap this up. But eventually I got to another town, and I still hadn't seen Louisa, but she did eventually catch up to me. So we had leapfrogged each other again somehow, and then it was getting dark at this point, and we didn't have anywhere to sleep, so we decided to keep going to this lake where we are now. And that was an interesting ride in the last half hour of daylight, down lots of like rocky paths and farm track, through some private property and some locked gates, and we eventually, Ellen Louisa lost her bottle and her sunglasses and her gloves and her earring yesterday, so not a great day for her, which again kind of makes it tricky when one person's feeling really good and another person is not. So, but we did eventually make it, and I think this is one of the best campsites of my trip, actually. Really amazing, and so good to be camping right next to the water, wake up to the sunrise. So hopefully another 70 to 100k today, depending how much gravel and how steep it is. I think most of the climbing is done now, and I hope to be in Rome on Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday morning, and keen to see Jaspal and his family. So yeah, we'll see what happens.